Hello everybody. So in this video I'm going to talk about sticking points. Now some of the videos we've been doing, or I've been doing, I say we because of all the interaction I get. Some people they don't like they like the videos, but they don't like thinking about the world as an illusion. So this idea that only Brahman is real, only you are real, your consciousness, and the rest of the world is an illusion. So, and it occurred to me that I didn't really even focus on that as I was getting into this. So I thought I would talk about my sticking points and how I got over them. The first one is just the thing that we're all stuck. Basically, when we start, we're all stuck. Because we think that there's no consciousness during deep sleep. So we've got this belief that we're brought up with, that the brain produces consciousness, and the science is clearly knows that's what it does. And during the night, during deep sleep, your consciousness is switched off. And so you can clearly see that the consciousness is not eternal. It switches on and switches off. And then after death, there'll be no brain, so the consciousness will switch off again. So this is the first big sticking point, and it's very easy to fix. It's that consciousness does not switch off when you're deep asleep. It's just this, as you know, I've heard Swami Sarvapriyananda and Rupert Spira say, it's awareness of absence, not an absence of awareness. Your brain or your mind is switched off, and so you just see nothing. And because you see nothing, there's no passage of time. You say, well, how do we know it's there? Well, in many civilizations, I've heard people say in all civilizations, but in many civilizations, they have a concept of deep sleep. Now, if they didn't, and this is before they developed neuroscience, brain scans, they had this idea of deep sleep. Now, if we were really not conscious during deep sleep, we would be awake, and then we'd be dreaming, and then we'd be awake, and that's all. We have this, but we don't. We kind of know that there was something else there. There was a period when I wasn't dreaming, and that bit is the bit that we really enjoy. When we say we slept well, it's not because we had lots of dreams, especially the more dreams you have, the worse it gets, really. I mean, if you've got a fever, you have these nightmarish dreams. But when we say we slept well, it's because we had that dreamless sleep. That's the best thing. Now, so that's the first step. So first you say, okay, and then you get off the starting blocks, so to speak. So you get on the journey. You think, okay, so consciousness doesn't switch off, it's continual, at least as from when I was born. Now, that's the second sticking point. You think, I remember hearing people say, lots of kind of people make snide remarks about, if they know you're a religious person or a spiritual person, they say, oh yeah, but before I was born, I can't remember 1972. But the thing is that, so I can't remember when I was 3 either. The fact that you can't remember, and people told me I was alive, and we started counting at 0. So I was definitely alive when I can't remember. So the fact I can't remember 1972, it doesn't mean that I wasn't aware. Now you say, well, that doesn't prove you were aware. But all we're looking for limits. So where are the limits? Here, I cannot find any limit. Is there a limit? There may be, there might not be, but I can't find one. Now, in the future, of course, death, we don't know. Who knows if there's a limit there? But at least as far as we can see, there are no limits in time. Then, no limits in space. That was another one that was difficult for me. So I would sit in meditation, and I would feel that I knew that the idea that everything that is here is in my consciousness, because we're brought up with this idea of the brain producing consciousness inside your head. Colors, sounds don't really exist in the outside our heads. Everything is constructed inside our heads, and I knew that. So I knew that kind of it is It is all consciousness. But I would sit there and say, well, I definitely have limits to what I can sense. So I remember sitting there in meditation one day and thinking, yeah, where are my limits? I could find my limits probably up to the wall. That's about as far as I go. I can't see beyond the wall. I had my eyes closed anyway, so. But then I heard a noise outside. And it occurred to me that no matter how far away something happens, if there was a powerful enough supernova, far enough away, you would still see it. If it was powerful enough, it would light up the sky. No matter how far away something is, it will still enter our awareness. Now, then there's the problem of but there's things I just don't know. There's, how can that be my awareness? And I remember Swami Savaripinanda explained that as when you're in a dream, everything, the unknown and the known, is in your awareness. The unknown is in your awareness as the unknown. So everything, including the unknown, is in your awareness. You don't need to have it as something, but it's kind of in a potential. So a car that's off in the distance comes up your road and it appears in your awareness. It goes from not being in your awareness to being in your awareness, from unknown to known. But all of that is in your awareness. So that was the next step for me. The big one, really, that took, I was dwelling on it, I was thinking about it for about maybe a year and a half, 2 years, was the whole idea of, so far, we've got to the point that I have no limits in time, have no limits in space. My awareness has no limits in time, no limits in space. And then the next one is to get away from solipsism. So the idea that other people actually exist. And Advaita Vedanta teaches that you, the ultimate reality, Brahman, is looking out of everybody's eyes. It's the consciousness out of everybody's eyes, even God, or you could just say it's only God's eyes and he's looking out of yours. So it's looking out of everybody's eyes. That's what I couldn't get, because I could see that I look this way at you and you look that way at me, and it is definitely not the same thing. But I listened to a lot of Swami Savaripinanda, and there's certain parts he was explaining. He was going systematic through the Upanishads. Now he came up with this clay pot analogy, which is where the space is aware, and the pot moves through the space. The space doesn't move with the pot. So you can imagine even better if it's a glass container, which is my personal adaptation. So you have a glass container moving through space. Now the awareness, because the awareness is everywhere, is limited by wherever the glass goes. It's a different space of the awareness, but still in this position it sees differently and has all the memories, of the glass. Well, not really the memories, but it has the shape and the color of the glass. You put another glass there and automatically it has its own viewpoint, and you move them and there's a consistency. So I got that. And what I think you have to do, and I got this from Francis Lucille, is when you're testing a new idea or new model or trying to understand a certain approach, just live with it for a while. So just say, okay, I'm going to see if this is the case. So this is what I did with this. And do you know, one day, I know it's not something big, but I was thinking about this a lot, and I came back from work, I finished work about 10 p.m, and the moon was shining. It was a full moon. It was very beautiful. I took a photo of it with my phone and sent it to my friend from university, and he sent me back a picture of the moon as well. And he's in Scotland, I'm in Spain. And he sent me the picture of the moon, and it was the same. Of course it was the same moon. But it was just that fact that we were both looking from different positions at the same thing. I know it doesn't really fit, completely. It's not a good analogy, but it just worked for me. And I just thought, yes, this is it. This is what's happening. It's me looking out of everyone, or it's everyone looking out of me. And so that really worked. The other, for the other things, I did the same approach. And so when this idea that we're awake during deep sleep, I I remember, because I had this in my mind, I remember one night I had a terrible cramp in my calf and I woke up. But what happens, I've read about it since then, is that when you get cramp, it's because the muscles relax completely. I don't know what happens, but then that's apparently what they do. And then that's when you cramp. And and so it can happen during deep sleep. And I saw how I was in deep sleep. I was aware of nothing. And then the pain came and I woke up. And I saw that transition. I saw myself in deep sleep. And so this is a good way to approach these things. These were my sticking points. Of course, the first thing you just have to get past is that you're awake. There is awareness during deep sleep. The second one, yes, do you have limits in time and space? And then the next one is we share our being, basically. And when I was thinking about this, it occurred to me that none of this is about making the world a dream. None of this is about saying that nothing really matters. And this is actually how I kind of convinced myself, if I'm sure there's a better way, discovered the truth might be better, but this is how I developed this understanding. And it wasn't through proving the world was false. It was interesting later to do the other experiments, the great good experiments and other things like that, because it just confirms what you know. And then recently this headless thing, because it's how I think anyway, so it came easily. So I would say that's the approach we need to take. Take something, a piece of knowledge openly. Don't just reject it and just see. Just stay with it and see how it fits with your personal experience. That's what Francis Lucille said, and I think that's really good advice for seeing if these things are true or not. Find out for yourself, that's what I'd say. So thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.